Alright, so this video is going to be about the spiritual bottom feeders, Satanism, people picking on vulnerable individuals sexually, romantically, and otherwise. But first, I'm just going to give you a real quick combo, Later on, I'll teach you how to barrage your opponent with unpredictable blows that allow you to fight multiple attackers at once. We just throw something out there. You've seen all of these moves before. I'm just putting them in a way that you can understand and in a way that flows together. It's central to martial art philosophies to have a lot of combos that flow together and variations. Variations are key. Without further ado. Okay, so what I did there, front kick, came down, chop to the neck, proceeded to side kick to the stomach, then ended with a sun punch to the nose area, to the nasal. Thank you. This video is about people who take advantage of you being targeted. There's rapists who rape you when you're drugged because they know you're, if you've been to the psych ward, that you're losing credibility in the eyes of the unscrupulous system. There's gays, there's catfish, there's large women, okay? Now it doesn't matter how much, sympathy or empathy I might have for some of these people, whatever made them so desperate and twisted in the head, it doesn't matter. Because what they're doing is wrong. And they're taking advantage of probably the most vulnerable people in society. It's arguable whether these people are more vulnerable than somebody who's developmentally challenged. In a way, we believe the developmentally challenged more than the targeted individual, if they manage to express what they believe is wrong or going on. So, part of my reason I decided never to settle and to truly tell people why it's wrong to settle is for this reason. And I tried to explain in the past is how society is full of gold diggers and feminists, and they've come together to get the less attractive women matched up with attractive men who aren't rich, and all the most attractive women tend to go to men who are rich, and most of them aren't attractive. And this is not a fair matchup system. This is the rich exploiting the poor in another way. This is the rich taking advantage of the poor in another way. They take their resources, they exploit their labor, they also get their women, and the women who are poor. And it affects the men who are poor, who otherwise would have been able to match themselves with, and with targeted individuals, it's easy for them to take this route. If you're a handsome man and you don't make six figures, for example, it's easy for them to exacerbate the problem, to feed into it, to make it so that you can't, find a date. They're cyber attacking you, they're messing with your results on dating sites, they're having women distract you just, to no avail. So they're teasing you, they put in your mind the thought of getting pussy, and then they take it away from you. And this might make you more vulnerable, more susceptible to, for bigger women. And, when it first started, when you don't notice it, that's the biggest problem. We need to raise awareness about this, and we need to raise awareness about their tactics, including their little sick matchmaking game. Hey, some of these women that they take advantage are, people in mental health, in the military, people who are family members of the gang stalkers, and so on and so forth. Now they might hate me for exposing this, but it has to be said. We see people taking advantage of good-looking poor men. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. And there's a lot of good points I make that get buried. And they didn't do themselves any favors by doing what they did to me. They didn't do themselves any favors. The only attractive women, were extremely perpish women who they set me up with, perps to the extreme. And the unattractive women would try to play that sympathetic role and do less perp stuff, more informing on what you do, so they don't give themselves away. Oh, it's all set up, it's absolutely set up to sabotage your life, And you know, no matter how you look at it, it needs to be exposed, you know. So some of you might feel, you know, well, this is bad for big women and it's going to make big women look bad. But, you know, I'm being fair. Right now I'm looking at Anubis right fast. Matter of fact, I'm going to put the scales as the picture. I'm going to make this an edited video. The whole thing's going to be scales, you know, because this is about doing what's fair, what is right. You know, if there's a balance in society, you'll see people pretty much matching up with what they deserve. People will get what they deserve in a fair and balanced society. When we see groups of people preying on vulnerable individuals, you know, regardless who those people may be, it is not fair, and this needs to be addressed. So it doesn't just affect me, it affects countless others, especially targeted individuals. This is how society is made, and feminism absolutely feeds into it no matter what they say. And there are very small groups of feminists who think that, you know, maybe they can switch the gender roles and they can be the breadwinner. But these people, you know, even that crowd tends to be with other rich guys. It tends to be one female who makes like maybe 6 figures or 80,000, and her husband is like, you know, rich as well. And they're not truly challenging the gender roles in that aspect, in that regard. They're just not a stay-at-home mom, and they consider that challenging the gender roles. Everything they're doing just happens to be in a way that helps selfish women out, helps indifferent selfish women out, you know. So absolutely, feminism is one of the major catalysts of this epidemic of unfairness, one of the major components. And, you know, gold digging obviously extremely feeds into it. Capitalism, materialism, absolutely. Anything that is anti-morality or anti-religion, you know, the religions that are strong on morality, feeds into this. The government feeds into this. You know, these people are social planners, social developers, social engineers, social controllers. Okay, you think they don't observe sociology and how things generally work, you know, and they have a bunch of psychologists. You know, when I went to University of Phoenix, they had a psychology department. They had a whole bunch of psychologists literally helping the gang stalkers, analyzing me in real time. Okay? People who were in school for psychology in my class, planted in my group, in order to analyze me and help them decide how to fuck with me, you know, in real time. You know, in the psych ward, you know, some of your handlers, some of the people observing you are psychologists, and they're saying, well, how can we get this guy to think how we want, to date who we want, and so on and so forth. They're basically trying to create your life for you, trying to create you and break you down, and then recreate you. Even worse, you know, it's increment, it's cycles, it's cyclic, you know, and it's sick, you know. So, yeah, going back to the subject, there's a lot of gay people. There's a gay agenda, and these gay people have teamed up with these people to try to make you a little bit more queerish, you know. And part of what they did is, in my search results, and this might be hard for some of you to believe, but it's true. They had people in shows and talk shows, people with lisps, you know. They planned a lot of gay people at the restaurants I go to. They had my search results come up with a lot of gay people in order to affect the way I speak. If you think about what an accent is and how people speak, it's a result of their environment. So you can literally plant a bunch of gays in someone's environment and you'll sound more gay. A lot of people who aren't gay, who live in San Francisco, sound more gay than someone who might live in the South or something. You know, a lot of people don't see that. People in sociology see that. People in psychology see that. Evolutionary psychology, social psychology, functional psychology. They all see these things happening. Developmental psychology. Psychosocial perspectives in psychology. So, you know, absolutely this goes on. Absolutely right now they're going to try to say that I'm wrong. They're going to send trolls to this video. Absolutely. But if you really search your heart and you search your mind, this is exactly what you would expect. This is exactly how it works. There's nothing I've ever said that isn't exactly what you would expect. If you just analyze society, you know, you got to realize I'm more wise than the people doing this. So for me, it's extremely obvious. But I think for everybody, it should be obvious. Okay? Analyze it. Look at how society works. Ask yourself how it works. What's holding it together? In Masonry, is part of the thread that holds it together, and they work with the government on record. I showed you the police. I've shown you police patches, and you know, presidents who are Masons. And if you really do the math, these people are in very effective social positions. Masonry is about social development. They consider themselves architects, developers, planners. That's all part of Masonry. You plan, you have a blueprint, you follow it, you get rid of the material that's going to get in your way. You know, you seek out the material that you need. In this case, it's human resources. So for people not to see that I'm right is absolutely disgusting. I am extremely disgusted with women, with gang stalkers, with society for allowing this to happen. Society should take a strong stand and say, no, we're not going to let these women prey on men and then cry about women issues all the time and never address this horrible, horrible phenomenon that we see constantly of people taking advantage of the most vulnerable people in society, political dissidents, the mentally ill, and the people who get the worst of the dating game. You know, they want to talk about date rape. I'll tell you right now, date rape, you know, is partially a side effect of women being gold diggers and feminists and making themselves a way that is either unreceptive to men who pretty much deserve pussy, to put it bluntly, or making themselves a way that's undesirable. You know, they're annoying, obnoxious feminist bitches. Think about an annoying in-your-face black female, for example. Think about a gold-digging fucking white female or Asian female, you know, who's looking at you like, you know, you're a scrub. She just looks at you and you know what she's thinking. Okay? This is part of what leads somebody to want to rape. And I'll go that far as to say this. I don't blame any targeted individual who rapes a woman. I personally don't blame. I know it's wrong, but I don't blame them. Because they've been sabotaged, and whether or not they consciously are aware that there's a process to try to set them up with people, to try to put perps in their lives as their friends, girlfriends, etc. And many of these females who are open to being that role are unattractive females who don't have a boyfriend and so on and so forth. Okay? So when society sabotages your love life, I want you all to think about this. When society sabotages your love life, then a bunch of gays and fat feminists and fat women try to take advantage after they've made you more susceptible. Is it then extremely wrong to rape a woman? Now, this is my answer. And I'm not telling you what to think about this. You know, we can explore this in the comments. My answer is, it is not extremely wrong. It is not very wrong. It then becomes slightly wrong. Okay? For the same reason, if somebody stole food from you and society fucking isn't helping you out, it's less wrong to steal than if you're a rich person stealing from people just to overindulge. There's degrees of evil. Okay? And so when society is tempting you to do evil and they fucking set you up to do evil, you know, I'm not saying you should do it, but I'm saying that should be considered. And these people sometimes will set the stage for a targeted individual to rape a woman. Then they'll use that to justify to themselves and their compatriots, their companions, to drug this person and rape them more, to increase the targeting or to increase the torture, the covert harassment. And think about it. You all know that I'm absolutely right, period. You all know this. And if you don't, you're a fucking idiot. I'm sorry, but if you don't know that I'm right, you are one ignorant, stupid son of a bitch. You should slap your fucking mother for not raising you correctly. Just a brief intro to the second half of this video. I want you to ask yourself if your ethnic group or race are doing things that are conducive to the acceptance of satanic philosophies in your group. You see, you can't be a satanic Christian. You can't be a satanic Muslim. You can't truly be a satanic Jew without being some kind of a Talmudic Jew, etc. Okay? But you can be a Satanist who's pretending to be these things. So when these things are truly your philosophies, you are safe from the New World Order. You can be a satanic pagan. You can be someone who's an Egyptian mythology enthusiast who follows Typhoon or Set or Apophis, and so on. You can be a satanic pagan and follow Hades and so on. A gang member who's tatted with drag is into the occult and talks about Lucifer and fallen angels in his flows. See, that's the problem with the spiritual bottom feeder philosophies. They allow for evil when religion does not. So to step away from the Abrahamic faiths and into the realm of the New Age, of this atheistic Satanism and so on. And that's why I'm going to show you these pictures. An atheistic Satanist, a homosexual Satanist community on Facebook with 1,000 people, and that's just one community of them. Notice there's 1,000 people. Satanic feminists, which is a very large movement. Satan is their idol. Satan is their, their mascot. Satan is, who they look up to and they try to embody and manifest. And they believe it will lead them to success, since Satan believes in selfishness, in compromising morality. Satan believes in doing evil to get things accomplished. Okay? So these philosophies from the jump are wrong. These pseudoscientific garbage philosophies, these spiritual bottom feeder philosophies, because they set the stage for the acceptance of evil. The highest forms of these philosophies, the most successful people within these philosophies, who are not exactly rejected by the mainstream people in these philosophies, are Satanists. And it's going to be hard for you people to swallow that. But I'm sure if you do your research, you'll figure that out. I've held your hand through a lot of this, people. Okay? And I shouldn't really have to. But I'm not going to say you're dumb and I'm smart or anything like this. But I'm going to say, do your research. It's best that you do your research and come to these conclusions on your own. Because a lot of times people will tell you the truth and it just won't sink in. It won't resonate within you. But when you start clicking, the light bulbs start going off in your own mind. That's why I'm so convicted. People didn't tell me most of what I preach. I came to these conclusions on my own, sorting through countless conspiracy theories, books, and over 10,000 valid resources in the last 6.5 years alone. Do your research, people. Come to the correct conclusion. Spiritual bottom feeding was the catalyst for Satanism, and we are headed for the pure Luciferian doctrine. All the gang stalkers have noticed that I'm right about religion. This having blown up in their face to a certain degree already, and it's going to increase in the future, should prove my point. Why were they able to do what they did? Because they took a scientific philosophy about how to live their life. A scientific lifestyle, a pseudo-scientific lifestyle. It has to do with mental health. Instead of taking the religious angle. A religious person would have never truly done this. A true Christian, Muslim, or a real Jew would have never done this if they lived by their philosophy. This is something that scientific people did. They said, we'll take a secular humanist perspective. We'll take a psychiatric perspective. We'll take this perspective or that perspective. Different pseudo-scientific, psychological, and, quote-unquote scientific perspectives. Had they had the morality to look at it and say, when you do something wrong, it's going to affect you. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. An eye for an eye and things of this nature. And they would realize, you know what, I don't want to do this. Because when I do something wrong, it's going to affect me. And in most cases, it's going to affect other people I care about as well. For example, if you have a family and you rob a bank, okay, there's a chance that you're going to go to prison. And your family is going to suffer as well because you're not there to provide. You're not there to give them care and fulfill their intimacy needs and what have you. So these people did not want to consider morality. They wanted to remove it from the situation. And they have different reasons why they say, well, religion did this when atheists are the biggest killers in history. Mao and Stalin. They'll say, well, we got to fucking, fight... We got to prepare for Russia and China and all these other countries. We can't let them pass us when they're in the same the greater secret society structure they are. And they basically mutually agreed to bring in the satanic world where people are fucking, human resources and not seen as people. And so on. So by following their philosophies, their spiritual bottom feeder philosophies, it has failed them. And now their whole groups of people are going to suffer. I've identified the groups that are doing this more than any TI I've ever come across. Okay, they say, they seem shocked. They're like, oh, they're like, the perps will be like, oh, I never thought of that, or I bet, and try to switch the topic. Other people will be like, he's right. I never thought of it that way. You know, and all of these groups, these political groups, these feminists and gays and so on, you know, they're all going to suffer. They just don't see it yet. Because of catfishing, because of taking advantage, because of preying on susceptible, vulnerable people, that the philosophies that they believe in have allowed for, their groups are going to suffer. They're going to suffer. The people who think like them are going to suffer. Even if their agenda keeps continuing to prevail, okay, people are going to be more and more aware of the kind of scum. And the more passionate someone is, like, you know, as people go through life, they're going to say, you know, these gay people are sickos who got this far by fucking doing evil, evil shit and preying on vulnerable individuals, being hypocrites, preying on political dissidents. You know, they're going to see these people for what they truly are. There's already millions and tens of millions of Americans who see these people for what they are. You know, there's a lot more people into conspiracy and into politics and who truly analyze these groups than you might think. Almost certainly they haven't analyzed it as much as I have, but they've analyzed it too. They have a certain awareness of it. And, you know, so you got to realize, man, the whole time I'm talking about your philosophies. I'm making the best arguments you've probably ever heard on these subjects about why their philosophies are harmful for them, their families, and society. They just refused to concede, and now it's starting to blow up in their face. People are going to start looking at gay people like, you're sickos who are helping the New World Order more and more. And the more you bring in your agenda, the more obvious it will be. People are going to start asking themselves more and more, well, how did they accomplish gay marriage? Well, how did they increase the homosexual populations of America? And no, we don't believe that there was all these gays everywhere. Imagine when it gets to like 50% gays. People are going to say, look, 50% of the population weren't magically in the fucking closet. Especially if you say being gay is genetic, then logically most gay people don't reproduce. So then why don't we see a decline in homosexuality instead of an increase if it's genetic? You know, people are going to say, well, this, and they're going to see my arguments and they're going to see other people's arguments and see how they're teamed up with mental health. And they're going to say, no, these people got this way by teaming up with our oppressors. You know, so you're going to have, you know, right now it's pretty evil. You know, the spiritual bottom feeders have teamed up with the most evil people. That's why number 2 is the worst criminal. Number 1 is Satanist. They've teamed up with the most evil people. And as it becomes more and more painfully obvious what is going on. All right, so this video is going to be about the spiritual bottom feeders, Satanism, people picking on vulnerable individuals sexually, romantically, and otherwise. But first, I'm just going to give you a real quick combo, you know. Later on, I'll teach you how to barrage your opponent with unpredictable blows that allow you to fight multiple attackers at once. We just throw something out there. You've seen all of these moves before that ended with a sun punch to the nose area. To the nasal. Thank you. This video is about people who take advantage of you being targeted. There's rapists who rape you when you're drugged because they know you're, you know, if you've been to the psych ward, that you're losing credibility in the eyes of the unscrupulous system. There's gays, there's catfish, there's large women. Okay? I'm just putting them in a way that you can understand and in a way that flows together. It's central to martial art philosophies to have a lot of combos that flow together and variations. Variations are key. Without further ado. Okay, so what I did there, front kick, came down, chopped to the neck, proceeded to side kick to the stomach. Now it doesn't matter how much, you know, sympathy or empathy I might have for some of these people, you know. Whatever made them so desperate and twisted in the head, you know, it doesn't matter. Because what they're doing is wrong. And they're taking advantage of probably the most vulnerable people in society. It's, you know, it's arguable whether these people are more vulnerable than somebody who's developmentally challenged. You know, in a way, we believe the developmentally challenged more than the targeted individual, if they manage to express what they believe is wrong or going on. So, you know, part of my reason I decided never to settle and to truly tell people why it's wrong to settle is for this reason. And I tried to explain in the past is how society is full of gold diggers and feminists